Well, here we go, everyone. Batman has just really one role, doesn't he? I mean, he just doesn't kill. That's the one role he has. Or is it? Is that the only role he has? I mean, there's got to be other roles, right? Look, this debate going on for years and years now has really kind of gotten out of hand. And really it started back in like 2016 with the release of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, where we saw Zack Snyder's take of Batman where, well, he does just that. He kills. Now, this week, Zack Snyder happened to be on Joe Rogan's podcast, which I thought was kind of weird, but that's neither here nor there. But he does discuss and talk about this whole idea that DC has kind of hurt Batman by not allowing him to kill. And I kind of want to discuss this a little bit because it's kind of blown up yet again over on all the social medias. But here's what he had to say on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Like, people are always like, well, Batman can't kill, right? So Batman can't kill is canon.
Is that canon, though? Is that canon? We're going to get into that a little bit here. But is that canon? Because that right there, I don't think people quite understand what is and isn't canon for Batman.
And I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. And they go like, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, that's just like you're protecting your God in a weird way, right? You're making your God irrelevant.
And there you have it. He says, you're making Batman, you're making your God irrelevant.
Can't be in that situation.
And I kind of agree with Zack Snyder in what he's saying here. I understand what he's saying here is you can't write around these issues that happen or could happen to a character because of this perceived role that there is within comics, that Batman does not kill. Now, we all know that through the lore of Batman and through the age of time, I mean, he's been around for 85 years now, that there have been many, many stories where Batman just refuses to kill. And in those situations where he may be placed in a situation where he may have to decide whether to kill or not, he has always found a way to get around killing. Now, you see, some of the takes on Twitter here. He goes, Zack Snyder went on Joe Rogan and, oh my God, we dodged a effing bullet. This dude is so disrespectful to DC. And then you see another person who retweeted this out and says, taking Batman won't kill and saying, I'll put him in a situation where he has to, when there's so many comics showing he'll just refuse anyways. Again, both, and really all three takes here, Zach's and Eric and Uncle Clark, they're all not wrong. They're all not wrong. And that's kind of the part that I want to get to here, because no one is wrong when it comes to all of this. That's the thing. Fans want to get into an uproar all the time when it comes to comics, and I get that. It's fun to be in an uproar. It's fun to debate. Don't get me wrong. I love to debate. I love to have great discussions all the time. But let's not forget that it was way back here. Let me pull this up here. Way back in 1939 in Detective Comics number 27. And if you don't know, that is the first appearance of Batman. It's the introduction of Batman, have you? And we see the Caped Crusader take on a villain. His name is Stryker. And they pushes him into a vat of toxic chemicals, which seemingly kills him. That's what happens. He kills him in that scene. And after he does so, he goes, a fitting end for his kind. So in the very first appearance of Batman, he does actually kill the villain that he faces. The bad guy that he takes on, he kills him. Now, does that make it right? No, that was the first iteration of the character. It was the first time that we've seen the character, and the lore had yet to be established. I get that. I understand that. The lore of Batman's parents being killed and everything just that had yet to be established. I get that. I do. But then, a few years later, it wasn't until 1941, January 1941, in Batman number 4, where Batman first began his no-kill rule. And it was a fight with pirates. Because, I mean, who else would Batman and Robin fight in 1941, you know? Pirates, of course. But it's neither here nor there. Batman and Robin are fighting pirates. And he tells Robin, use only the flat of your sword, Robin. Remember, we never kill with weapons of any kind. And that is where it began. Now, the reason for this no-kill rule was not really specified at the time. This no-kill rule, from that point forward, started to become kind of a writer's choice. It's kind of, what do you want it to be as a writer? Like, when you're writing the story of Batman, why do you think Batman is not killing? It's come from like the idea of not wanting him to turn into the monster that killed his parents, which is a very honorable idea, to not being able to stop killing if he can. So you see, there's never really been one solid reason or one ultimate reason, or this is why Batman doesn't kill. So if we want to go that route, if we want to talk about Batman doesn't kill in comics, Batman doesn't kill in canon or lore, well, there's never been an established reason that this is why, 100% why. It's been changed throughout the years. Different writers have taken different approaches to it. So, why? Why is it such a big deal? Why do the people want to attack Zack Snyder for doing it? Because we saw in 1989 Batman, we saw in Batman Returns, we saw even in the Dark Knight trilogy, we've seen Batman kill. Well, people want to take a look at what Batman did in the Zack Snyder films and say, well, he's doing it so unabashedly. He's doing it to such an extent that he's not doing it by accident. He's doing it on purpose. He's just branding people for them to be killed and whatnot. And again, I ask, what in lore has established that he can't do that? Because let's not forget that the writers, the creators, when they're hired to write these stories, they are given artistic freedom. They are given the ability to write. Don't forget, Kevin Smith wrote a comic book where Batman pissed his pants. And people were in an uproar about that even. We had a comic not very long ago where Batman showed his dong in a comic. Writers and artists have the ability and have the freedom to do certain things with the characters and get to explore more different intricacies with the characters and their backgrounds. That's kind of the idea of hiring different artists and writers and creators to explore different avenues. Everybody has different ideas. But speaking of creators, let's see what co-creator Bob Kane had to say about this. Because in his memoir, Batman and Me, he actually lamented that taking the option of lethal force off the table, he believes that it removed Batman from the deadlier pulp heroes who had initially inspired him to create the character in the first place. He says that Batman wasn't the Dark Knight anymore with all the censorship. Now, this memoir was made many, many years later, much later in his life. But to him, when you take off the table the idea of him being able to kill, that kind of took away from who Batman was and who Batman is. Not dissimilar from what Zack Snyder just said here.
God in a weird way, right? You're making your God irrelevant.
You're making your God irrelevant. He's kind of echoing what the co-creator of Batman said here. That's very interesting. That's a very, very, very interesting thing and very interesting way to look at it. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Batman should kill in every iteration. I'm not saying that he should kill all the time. I'm saying that it should be up to the writer, the person who is making that iteration, that particular story, should have the right to decide what they're doing. I'm all for allowing the creator to take the character and do with it as they please. If DC hires an artist creator to put their mark on these characters, let them put their mark on the character. Like, isn't that what we've all wanted to see and what we always fight for? Look, all these superheroes have had a plethora, multiple iterations over the years. Batman's 85 years old. Superman's almost 90 years old. I mean, they're getting to this point where they're going to be in the open market where anybody's going to be able to use them. Their IPs are going to be free for anyone to use. But, we have to remember that over this almost century of these heroes being around, there's so many different types of iterations. They've gone through so many different types of stories and different, just, again, iterations, I guess is the best way to put it. That, yes, we're going to have to adapt over time. We can't stick to one narrative constantly. And I get the idea that you want to have a constant with your characters. And I get that. I understand that. Superman, truth, justice, and the American way. I get that, because that's what Superman stands for. But Batman is also always going to be the dark and brooding character. And whether he kills or not, he can still be dark and brooding. Superman is always going to be for truth and justice in the American way. It's just, how's the writer going to handle that? I think, what people need to understand is, while you may not like Zack's take, while you might enjoy what Matt Reeves has done, and while you may or may not like what James Gunn is going to do with Brave and the Bold, there's always going to be another iteration around the corner. Just as you have decades worth of comic books and cartoons and other films that you can enjoy of Batman, not everything is for everybody. It's that simple. So you can either enjoy it or not enjoy it. It's up to you. But to sit there and freak out because Zack Snyder had Batman kill a few people, that's his vision. If you don't like it, go become a filmmaker, go become a comic book writer, go become a comic book artist, go become an author yourself, go get hired by DC to write Batman and make your own story. I mean, it's easy for somebody to say that, but, there's so many times when people just want to sit there and criticize and yell and scream on Twitter, on social media so much that it just gets to a point where it's like, why? Why does this matter at this point? Do a little research, and you'll find that Batman has killed many, many times in the past. You'll find that the co-creator of the character didn't like that he didn't kill anymore. You'll find that, maybe we should leave it up to the writers and the filmmakers and the artists that are creating this character and who are having the ability to create this new iteration to have the freedom to do what they want with that iteration. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on all this. I think it's a crazy, interesting debacle that's going on. I do want to know your thoughts, though. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. With all that said, I guess I'll catch you all later.